Anas PNT, a view. The 3 months went by in a blur, with the help of Stuart and Sonia. Since the day I rejected him in my room, Jackson has kept his distance. He doesn't try anything, nor does he invade my personal space. He no longer teased me, and I was no longer his main target, even if we were stuck in his office for hours. Today was my day before last, and I was so happy to be leaving the mansion. Don't get me wrong, Stuart and Sonia are the best, but I would always be happier at home. Given that it was a Saturday, we weren't in the office. In fact, Stuart and I were busy screwing around in the kitchen by baking and making a mess. "Oh my God, Stuart, let me down." I giggled as he lifted me up. "Apologize." He simply stated, "No." I laughed as kicked my legs. "Okay, then I could do this all day." He spun me around, earning another burst of giggles from me. I splashed some flour on his forehead, and he picked me up, not letting me down. "Having fun?" came a deadly quiet voice from the kitchen's doorstep. One look from Jackson and Stuart placed me down to the ground. "My office. Now." He simply demanded, his eyes glued on me, and my feet were quick to obey. As I made my way there, I overheard Stuart said, "Jackson, dude, don't overreact. We were just having a little fun. One more word out of you, and it'll show exactly why I'm the one in charge." I heard Jackson threatened, then he departed. The second we were closed in the office, Jackson spun around and grabbed my hair as he forced my head back. My eyes locked with his, and his lips were inches from mine. "You like screwing other people in my house? Huh? You like being a slut around my men?" he questioned darkly, and my heart sped up. No, I'm sorry," I stated, afraid for my life. "You will be sorry if I find you with him again," he threatened, his lips ghosting my lips. "Why do you always do that? Tease me. Why don't you just kiss me?" I asked softly, wanting so bad to have a taste. I was seriously messed up. He was pulling my hair, and I was worried about kissing him. "You're not my type," he reminded me, and that just crushed my heart. I suddenly shoved him from me, then slapped him. "How dare you? If I'm not your type, then why the hell does it bother you if I flirt with Stuart or not? Huh?" I said, shoving him once more. His eyes were scary and dark as he said, "Oh, I don't mind you flirting with Stuart, as long as you don't do it in my house." "Oh, okay, I see. Well, good thing tomorrow is my last day, so then I will leave this hellhole, and me and Stuart will do whatever we want. And you can't say anything about it," I yelled, then I shoved past him and walked out, slamming the door behind me. I ended up not seeing Stuart for the rest of the day. The next day, I woke up in a happy mood. I packed my things with a smile on my face, and when a knock came from the door, I skipped towards it in glee, knowing that I have paid my debt, and I would leave this mansion and Jackson behind forever. I opened the door, and my smile automatically disappeared. There, standing in front of me, was Stuart, looking mean as ever. Is everything okay?" I asked cautiously, feeling the coldness from him. "Boss wants to see you in the office, now," spoke Stuart, his voice void of any emotion. It was actually kind of scary. "Stuart, are you okay? Did I do something wrong?" I asked, as I placed my hand on his shoulder, which he quickly shrugged off. Retracting my hand back to my chest, I took a step back and sighed sadly. I silently closed the door behind me and followed Stuart, my heart beating in my throat. When I arrived, Stuart opened the door and let me in. Then he closed me in with the cold-eyed devil. "Have a seat," is how he greeted me. I walked over to his desk carefully and sunk myself down onto the seat. The way he was glaring at me made me feel like a child about to be scolded. "So the 3 months are up, and your debt has been paid. I am happy to inform you that you are free to go, and you and I never have to cross paths again," he stated, as he leaned back into his chair. "Okay, thank you," I said, then readied myself to leave. "Unless," he added, making me stop in my tracks, "you want to stay and be my secretary. You have been a tremendous help as well as an efficient worker, and you can go and come as you please. You don't even have to sleep here," said Jackson with a smile. Was he serious? I found myself bursting in laughter at his offer. "Why, serious?" I asked. Then I doubled over in laughter, my eyes beginning to water as my sides began to ache. "I'm sorry, Jackson, but I would rather chop my arm off and feed it to myself before I decide to work for you ever again." "Thanks for the offer, but no thanks," I stated, as I stood up. His eyes went hard for a second. Then he smiled. He smiled so dashingly that I felt myself became nervous from the way he was smiling. I was hoping you'd say that. See, now you don't have a choice. You're no longer my employee, but now you're my prisoner, and you're not going anywhere, he declared as he stood up. Is this a joke? I found myself asking. No, he said without a hint of amusement. You don't actually expect me to stay with you, do you? I questioned, raising an eyebrow. Oh, yes, I do. If not, Stuart dies. He simply explained. You can't be serious. I found myself saying, my mouth going dry. Bring him in, he yelled, and in barged the bald eagle with Stuart. He forced Stuart to his knees and planted a gun behind his head. Either you decide to stay with me, or I kill him here and now. Then I kill you, declared Jackson with a deadly glare. Jackson, enough. This is not funny, I said, suddenly feeling enveloped by fear. I never said this was a comedy. Agree to stay with me, or I'll bury 2 bodies tonight, he announced, and I broke down at his words. Third person's PNT, of you. I don't understand. Jackson, I paid off the money that I owed. What more do you want from me? Said Annalena as she stared in disbelief at the unfolding events. You're right, you did. But money is no longer what I want. I want you. And I always get what I want, sneered Jackson as he stared down the shy beauty in front of him. Her fear, her tears, and her uncertainty aroused the beast within him, and that beast was going to get that beauty, no matter the cost. Anas, PNT of you. I stared wide-eyed at the maniac in front of me. Was he serious? Are you serious? I asked him again after a while of sitting in silence. My mind was still playing catch-up. Yes, stay with me here or else. With a snap of his finger, the bald eagle kicked Stuart's leg, then went around him, landing a punch to his jaw. I gasped, shocked at the turn of events, as well as the obvious threat. Blood began trickling down the side of Stuart's lips as he tried to straighten up, but one more kick from the bald eagle, Stuart's upper body was sent plummeting to the floor. Or else, your boyfriend here dies. He finished his sentence, a sick smile on his face. Jackson, I began, trying to make sense of this. Your answer now. He cut me off as he became impatient. I turned back to look at Stuart, and he didn't even look fazed. He was breathing a little hard, but beside that, he didn't seem afraid. So, taking his reaction to mind, I shook my head and declared, no, I won't stay here, especially not with you. As I turned back to face Jackson, he smiled and shook his head. Then he signaled to the bald eagle. Stuart received a kick to his stomach, followed by a gunshot wound to his knee. He grunted and gritted his teeth, but his face still remained emotionless, no frown, no fear. The complete opposite to me. Oh my God. I placed my hands over my mouth in shock as I made a move to stand and pay aid to Stuart, whose blood began to stain the floor below him. Sit down, boomed Jackson, and I found myself quickly plopping myself back on the chair, my eyes wide and afraid, my body trembling all over. See, now that was a warning. You better think long, hard, and well about your answer before stating your decision. He stated all businesslike, with hands clasped over his desk, as he looked over at me, his eyes hooded. I'll call the police, I said, trying to sound brave. No one's stopping you. He said too calmly. In fact, he even slipped his phone in my direction. The bastard. Calling the police wouldn't help, and he knew it. With tears streaming down my face, I looked up into his cold blue eyes. Fine, as long as no one gets hurt, I said, feeling defeated. Great, I'm glad we could come to an agreement. Take him away, make sure Sonia takes care of him, he said to the bald eagle, and just like that Stuart was dragged away. It was only the 2 of us in the office, and I really wanted to just go to my room and cry. So I can come and go as I please? I asked, just to break up the tense silence. No, he stated coldly, as he opened his laptop and began typing away. What, but you said. That was before you laughed and threw that offer back in my face. If you are to leave, you must first ask my permission. If I approve, which is highly unlikely, you will go with an escort. He explained, his eyes glued to the screen. Dude, you just can't be serious. I huffed, now angry. I mean, if Stuart wasn't enough proof of my being serious, there are many other ways I can prove my words. He flashed a beautiful grin my way, then focused right back on his work. Why are you doing this? I sighed, looking down. Doing what? He asked, clueless. Holding me here as prisoner, I stated, my eyes glaring his way. I have my reasons, he said simply. But I'm not your type. I reminded him of his words. I know, you're not. He confirmed, then his eyes seemed to become so distant, until the bald eagle barged into the office. The second he came in, I stood up and left, but not before noticing the pool of blood that still stained the floor. The rest of the day went by uneventful. I managed to avoid Jackson like the plague, but I did end up being cooped up in my room for most of the day. Later that night, after I was sure everyone, including Jackson, was back in their room, I left my room and snuck into Stuart's room. He laid on his back with an arm lying on his forehead, shirtless. Stuart? I whispered as I approached him, but I received no reply. Stuart, I said a bit louder. Anna, what are you doing here? He opened his eyes and spoke out loud. Shh. Someone might hear you. I shushed him as I made my way over to his bed and laid beside him. The minute I got too close, my hand pressed against his stomach, he hissed in a harsh breath. I quickly pulled back as I said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Then just like that, I broke down. Hey, said Stuart as he wrapped an arm around me and pulled my head to his chest. It's fine. I'm fine, he reassured me. No, you're not. You got shot, I simply explained as I found my fingers tracing his bare chest. He drew in a deep breath, and when he spoke again, his voice was slightly deeper. Princess, are you trying to get me killed? He stated, his heart speeding up under my ear. No. Why? I replied, clueless. Then he chuckled and said, so damn innocent. You have no idea what you're to me, huh? I lifted my head and looked into his eyes. I had no idea what he was referring to, but I knew what I wanted to do at that specific moment. I found myself leaning down, as Stuart sighed. Then his hand found my cheek and began to caress it, as I minimized the distance between our lips. I felt his lips on mine. All I had to do was go just a bit closer. I think you best be getting back to your room now, Annalena, came Sonia's voice as she opened Stuart's door and shined a flashlight on us. Stuart's eyes instantly became hard as he cleared his throat and said, yeah, you should go. And with a disappointed sigh, I headed back to my room. Frustrated, I walked straight in and slammed my door shut. Had fun visiting your prince? Came Jackson's voice from my right side, causing me to jump in fright. He blended so well into the darkness, it was terrifying. What do you want? I said, anger taking over my fear. Did you kiss him? He asked. None of your damn business, I snapped, and he jumped to his feet. With long strides, in seconds, he was on me, as he held my wrists captive. Oh, but that's where you're wrong, darling, he stated as he moved out bodies back, until we were both against the wall, my hands on each side of my head. You are my prisoner now, so everything about you is my business. Now did you kiss him? He asked, his lips just ghosting mine. And I found myself looking away and trying to turn my face from him. He found his answer, because he smiled, and as he nuzzled his nose against my cheek, he whispered. Tell me, princess, have you ever kissed someone else beside me? Then, just like that, before I could answer, his hands clasped my face, and his lips landed on mine.